As Prime Minister Modi nears the end of his second tenure in office, he undertakes one of his most symbolic foreign trips as the Indian Prime Minister. PM Modi's visit to Bhutan this week is highly significant, not just for India and Bhutan, but for China as well. Bhutan is about the size of Switzerland, is caught between nuclear giants India and China. But would you believe it? Till today, Bhutan has no official formal ties with China. Yet, it almost entirely depends on India for security, foreign policy and economy. Of late, however, China is employing land grab and salami slicing tactics in an attempt to force Bhutan to hand over the strategic Doklam plateau, which could compromise not only Bhutan's sovereignty, but also India's defense and security. Bhutan is reaching out to India for support. In this video, we will tell you how PM Modi's visit is like answering Bhutan's SOS and defying China in the Himalayan border tug-of-war. So stay with us. Prime Minister Modi's visit attempts to show Bhutan that India stands shoulder to shoulder with its Himalayan neighbor even in the face of Chinese bullying. Since the moral code of conduct is in place after the announcement of the dates of the general election in India, no major announcements are likely. However, the fact that at such a crucial time Prime Minister Modi is visiting Bhutan shows the significance India attaches to its ties with its smaller neighbor. Only former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh had travelled overseas after the Code of Conduct was implemented. That was for a G20 meeting in Britain in 2009. Prime Minister Modi and Bhutanese PM Tshering Tobgay met in New Delhi in March 2024 and reviewed progress in bilateral ties in various areas including infrastructure development, connectivity, energy, hydropower cooperation, people-to-people exchanges and development cooperation. Several key projects are in the pipeline which further solidify New Delhi's position as the premier partner in Bhutan's growth. China has failed to influence this Himalayan kingdom unlike other South Asian nations due to India's support, and this is what annoys Beijing. Notably, progress on the Panachangchu 2 hydropower project is advancing with its commissioning likely in 2024 itself. Also, a memorandum of understanding facilitating India's financing of 1,500 crore rupees to Bhutan's royal government for the Gyaltsong program. Now, this initiative, spearheaded by the King of Bhutan, aims to empower Bhutanese youth through skill development and leadership training, reflecting a shared commitment to nurturing the next generation. Space cooperation has emerged as another pivotal area of collaboration. Notable endeavors include India's provisioning of technical capacity building on remote sensing technology to Bhutan through India's Space Research Organization or the ISRO. But the India-Bhutan story goes back to 1949, just 2 years after India won its independence. The 1949 Treaty of Perpetual Peace and Friendship, which was re-signed in 2007, establishes a cornerstone of India and Bhutan ties. Through this treaty, India assures Bhutanese security and foreign policy direction in exchange for financial and political backing. The two countries have vowed to disallow their territories be used for any harmful activities to the national security and interest of the other. After 45 years of work, they signed the final map strips in 2006 and officially and jointly delineated their borders. West Bengal, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim and Assam were the demarcation areas. Bhutan also has fairly shown a strategic commitment towards India's defense interests on various occasions, be it the Indo-China War in 1962 or backing India's efforts for Bangladeshi independence from Pakistan during the Liberation War of 1971, while again backing India's stand on the 73-day Doklam standoff with Chinese PLA a few years ago. Therefore, India sees China's increasing activities in Bhutan as a tactic to create a rift in this special Indo-Bhutan relationship. The recent deal on the border issue offered by China to Bhutan appears to corroborate this claim. China has been salami slicing Bhutanese border regions, setting up new border villages on disputed territory and pressuring Bhutan to give up its claim on the Doklam plateau. China's offer for Bhutan to give up on its western frontiers in return for central territories has direct implications for India's security. Doklam, situated in the west of Bhutan, is located close to India's Siliguri corridor, which links India's mainland to its northeastern states. Doklam's vicinity to arguably India's weakest strategic choke point makes it highly significant. Access to Doklam would give China leverage over India's northeast region, where it claims the Indian states of Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim. It would also cut off the bridge between India's mainland and the northeast, leaving the country militarily vulnerable. India is expected to back Bhutan not to compromise on Doklam under any Chinese pressure, even though the formal demarcation of the border between Bhutan and China is ultimately in India's long-term security interest, as long as they do not involve Doklam. China would then not be able to use its salami slicing tactics to put pressure on Bhutan in the future. China has an area of 9.5 million square kilometers and is the third largest country in the world. Compared to it, Bhutan is the 133rd largest country with an area of just 38,400 square kilometers. Bhutan should be insignificant. Its border villages should have no interest in Beijing, yet sadly, that isn't so. China has been expanding its influence in South Asia through Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, to an extent Bangladesh and now Myanmar, using financial inducements and massive loans in the host countries, which is synonymous with Beijing's infamous debt trap style of imperialism. Just ask Sri Lanka about the Hambantota port, which is now virtually under Chinese control. The latest country in the neighborhood feeling the pressure and Chinese financial muscle appears to be Bhutan. The perception that there is much more to gain by avoiding a conflict with China makes sense for a tiny nation like Bhutan. However, over the past 70 years, Thimphu did not even want any formal ties with Beijing. But with China consolidating its hold on Tibet after capturing the territory over half a century ago, now the dragon is turning its eyes on tiny Bhutan. Tibet and Bhutan had long had religious, cultural and commercial relations. However, China started claiming Bhutanese land by publishing new maps in the 1950s, which sparked the two countries' border conflict. China captured 8 Bhutanese enclaves in Tibet during the military war against Tibetans in 1959. Bhutan then cut all ties to Tibet, which was ruled by China, and redirected its trade lines completely to India. Following China's takeover of Tibet, Bhutan and Tibet failed to draw any boundary, which allowed China to make significant incursions into Bhutan, most notably in 1967, 1979 and 1983, and most recently in 2017, during which Indian forces confronted PLA and thwarted Chinese plans in Bhutan. Even though the Bhutan-China Agreement on Maintenance of Peace and Tranquility was signed in 1998 and 24 rounds of talks held since then, no lasting peace has been found yet. CCP is in a relentless pursuit to control Bhutan's national discourse about its border dispute with China. However, Bhutan's symbiotic relations with India continue to be the main challenge. China is attempting to find new pressure zones. Beijing even opposed a proposal on the Sakting Wildlife Sanctuary in eastern Bhutan during a meeting of the Global Environment Facility last year. Given that there had never been any historical Chinese claims in eastern Bhutan, this new opposition was surprising and an indication of the never-ending Chinese thirst for territory of its neighbors. Experts believe China will give up its claims in other regions only if Bhutan hands over the Doklam plateau to Beijing. But this will be unacceptable to Bhutan's major ally, India. Prime Minister Modi's visit will hope to soothe any lingering security questions in Bhutan's leadership about India's continued support. Any border compromise between Bhutan and China that does not involve Doklam will be beneficial to India in the long run, even though it may be initially difficult to accept. Historically, practically and geographically, the futures of Bhutan and India will forever be intertwined. India has never compromised Bhutan's sovereignty, and bilateral ties are based on the idea that one nation's prosperity benefits the other, regardless of differences in territory size. India and Bhutan share close military relationship as well. India provides the Bhutanese armed forces with training, equipment and logistical support. India's assistance in strengthening Bhutan's border management infrastructure has contributed to maintaining stability along its borders. Bhutan's strategic significance for India extends beyond geopolitics. It encompasses cultural affinity, historical connections, and people-to-people ties, apart from its geographical location and shared security interests. You too can have your say. In what way can India help Bhutan face increased Chinese pressure tactics along its borders? Leave a comment below, and if you like this news report, then remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons.